Over the course of this channel, everybody loves this band. Today we're diving into one of the most innovative and enjoyable bands to listen to in the last 60 years. It's a group that blended symphonic grandeur with pure pop perfection. And if you can't get on board with these guys, seriously, you better check your pulse. So many great stories to go along as well, including the panic-ridden hit that may have been inspired by a wicked California groupie whose identity is a mystery. We try to solve it next. But the singer got even when he lambasted her across radio. And then there's the tell the double album the band's lead singer said he would write in a month. Only he got writer's block soon after and he couldn't break through. He was totally depressed till one day the clouds literally parted and his depression fizzled and he wrote a silly song to chase away his anxiety and actually ended up being the happiest song of all time as backed and certified by scientists. It's a journey through 5 landmark albums that changed the sound of the 70s and 80s forever. Let's do it. Hey, music junkies. For today's episode, we're telling the story of the evolution of ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. I got 10 songs lined up across 5 albums, like I did with the Carpenters a couple weeks ago. I'm going to split them up into A-side and B-sides from each album. Honestly, it was a massive undertaking to narrow down ELO's catalog to only 10 songs, but I think this is a great representation of a great band. Let's get straight into it. Now, the original ELO lineup was born out of pure ambition. Roy Wood, Jeff Lynne, and Bev Bevan had all been members of The Move, a pop unit that had notched multiple UK hits, but they wanted more. They saw ELO as a means of greater self-expression, vowing to carry on where the Beatles' I Am the Walrus left off, and they did a great job of that. So with the help of Bill Hunt on French horn and Steve Woolham on violin, they completed an experimental self-titled debut, really great debut. Despite their lofty ambitions, the band still showed traces of The Move, particularly on the startling 10538 Overture, which became a UK top 10 single in 1972. But almost immediately, the lineup began to fracture from there. Woolham departed, and the remaining quartet added Hugh McDowell on cello. Then there was Andy Craig on cello, keyboard player Richard Tandy, and Wilf Gibson on the violin for a series of indifferent live appearances. And then Roy Wood, frustrated with the band's direction, took Hunt and McDowell and left to form Wizard. Craig also left, leaving Lynne, Bevan, Gibson, and Tandy to maintain the ELO name. Then they quickly recruited Mike DeAlbuquerque on bass and vocals, and cellist Mike Edwards and Colin Walker. And this reshaped lineup completed the transitional Electric Light Orchestra 2, and they scored a UK top 10 single with a really crazy cover of Chuck Berry's Roll Over Beethoven that included quotes from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Run over Beethoven, rockin' into my new. And man, they were always very experimental, and I always enjoy that. Gibson and Walker then made way for violinist Mick Kaminsky, and ELO enjoyed a third UK hit, Showdown, from their third LP on the third day. Showdown, great song. It's gonna be a showdown. In 1974, Can't Get It Out of My Head, and that was from their 4th album, El Dorado, reached the US top 10. And that gave them a huge hit here. ELO had finally found their footing, and America was taking notice. And this leads us to the first of our 5 featured albums, Face the Music. With Face the Music, Electric Light Orchestra was ready to make their move. El Dorado had been a critical success, but the band wanted to reach a wider audience. So taking a break between legs of the El Dorado tour, they hunkered down in Musicland Studios in Munich, Germany to record their 5th album. Situated in the basement of the Arabella Hochhaus Hotel Complex, Musicland was about to become ELO's creative home. This marked the beginning of a 6-album partnership with the studio and its resident engineer, Reinhold Mack. Of course, Reinhold Mack was also involved with Queen. And another one gone, and another one gone, another one bites the dust. Hey. Face the Music was a deliberate shift for ELO, though, a move toward a more radio-friendly rock sound and to get into the mainstream. It worked like a charm. Recorded in May and June of 1975, Face the Music was the beginning of a new phase for Electric Light Orchestra, one that had them emerging as one of the biggest acts of the mid to late 70s. The album spawned 2 massive singles. There was Evil Woman and Strange Magic, both which cracked the top 15 in the US. Evil woman, and that's exactly where we're going to start. At number 5, my A-side pick for Face the Music is Evil Woman. Now, this track delivered ELO their first worldwide hit, and his creation was an act of sheer panic. It was written in under an hour to save an entire album from commercial disaster. So as the band finished recording Face the Music, Jeff Lynne reviewed the tracks and came to a gut-wrenching conclusion. In his words, said, "It's not a good single." He was convinced the album was missing the commercial hit that they needed to break through. After putting so much blood, sweat, and tears into this album, they were missing a single. So in a panic, Jeff Lynne sent the band out of the studio, and completely on his own, he composed Evil Woman. Now, some accounts say he did it in less than 30 minutes, but however long it took, it was the fastest song that Jeff had ever written in his life. In a 2001 interview with BBC Radio 2, Lynne described the lightning strike moment. He said, "I just walked up to the piano and I played these 3 chords, and it was Evil Woman immediately. I never even changed them." The music, that was recorded in the afternoon. Lynne added the lyrics soon after that. Now, initially, Evil Woman was just a working title he used for the chorus while he hammered out the chords. But unable to come up with anything better, the title just stuck. So the question is, who is this evil woman? Well, Jeff revealed that she's not some random fictional creation in his mind. There is a real-life, mysterious evil woman who actually appears in multiple songs throughout Jeff's career. Lynne openly stated that the song was inspired by a certain woman. However, he refuses to reveal her identity. This has led to decades of fan speculation over who this destructive, captivating figure might be. You took my body and played to win. But you know what? One clue comes from the drummer, Bev Bevan. Bev said Evil Woman was inspired by a California groupie. He said, and I quote, "We did a lot of touring in the 70s, and we'd never really experienced that groupie thing until we first came to America with ELO. It's quite a remarkable thing, particularly in California, we found. When you just check into your room and the phone rings and, hi, I'm Candy, can I come up and see you? Whatever it is, and it's just these women that you meet on the road, and a lot of them are just sweet girls, really. And some of them are quite sad. Some of them are just fun girls. But a lot of them are really quite evil, and I think that's where the song came from." Other clues are that Jeff was the emotional victim of this evil woman. But he got the last laugh by using the emotional devastation she inflicted upon him to inspire the creation of that song that catapulted the band and Jeff Lynne into global stardom. Another story is that he took a song he'd written and recorded from an earlier album track called Night Rider, and it was on the album, and he played it backwards, and that became part of Evil Woman. For Face the Music's B-side, I gotta go with Strange Magic. Jeff Lynne wrote this song on various pianos in separate places while ELO was touring England, presumably during the El Dorado tour. The song was written as part of a conscious effort by Lynne to pivot ELO from their weighty concept album structure toward a new bite-sized format of pop-friendly hits that would fit on the radio. That was the goal, and they achieved it, matter-of-factly. Ushered in by a delicate orchestral prologue, Strange Magic begins with a deceptively simple guitar phrase. Here's the twist, though. It wasn't played by Jeff Lynne. A lot of people think it was. The beautiful lilting acoustic guitar riff that opens the song and defines its core melody, that was actually played by keyboardist Richard Tandy. Lynne, who typically handled lead guitar duties, was struggling to get the specific fingering just right during the recording sessions. So Tandy, famed for his array of Moog synthesizers and piano, was persuaded to step away from his keys and pick up a guitar. Lynne explained, it was totally necessary. I just couldn't work it out. It was such a long run with 2 fingers. I wasn't used to doing anything with 2 fingers. Richard is very articulate in his playing, and so he helped out. It's magic. It's magic. In the USA, Strange Magic was the second single released from Face the Music, and it peaked at number 14, staying in the Hot 100 for 14 weeks. All right, so by 1976, Electric Light Orchestra was hitting their creative peak. Their number 6 album, A New World Record, is one of their best in my opinion. The songs, they have the space to breathe thanks to a more selective use of orchestra and choir, which enhances the performances, I feel, rather than overwhelming them. A New World Record was ELO's first album to go top 10 around the world and first to go platinum here in the States. Jeff Lynne began writing the songs in May of '76 during a schedule gap following the cancellation of a short UK tour. The dates were rescheduled for June, and ELO returned to Musicland Studios in Munich in July to record that record. Now, by August, the band was back in the USA for another tour, trying to make inroads there. So at number 4 on our countdown, I've got A Living Thing as my A-side pick. And this song marked a major turning point for the band. After years of spotty chart success and near misses, this was their UK breakthrough hit. It's a terrible thing to... Living Thing put them squarely in the public consciousness and kicked off an incredible streak of 19 top 30 hits that ran all the way until 1983. Yeah, 19 in a row. That's insane. The lyrics of Living Thing have drawn a ton of attention over the years and have left a rock and roll mystery for the ages. What the hell is this song about? What a terrible thing to lose. Now, people have speculated, especially fans, that the song could be anything from abortion to whale hunting. I'm not kidding. Some thought it was about food poisoning or unbearable diarrhea. Others insisted it was about losing your virginity. There were theories about a spider in the bathroom, dogs, on and on and on. It was like everyone has played detective with this song. But Jeff Lynne has always insisted the truth. It's more straightforward. Said Jeff, and I quote, "I suppose it's really about love. Love being a living thing." So there you go. Although there is some evidence that the song was partly inspired by a bad bout with dysentery that led to a scene, I guess, right out of Dumb and Dumber, similar. So initially the song's subject matter was completely different because it was tied to the dysentery. The original lyrics were about a Spanish vacation Lynne had taken. But after finishing the track, Jeff had second thoughts. He wasn't feeling it. So he actually called up engineer Reinhold Mack and told him to erase all the vocals, including the backing harmonies, everything. He just deleted them. Then Lynne rewrote the words right there in the studio. He cranked out a completely new set in about a half an hour, and just like that, Living Thing was reborn. The resulting lyrics are what confuse people and why it's one of the most wildly misinterpreted songs of the 70s. Jeff has continually denied sensational rumors about what the song means, but it could mean 3 or 4 things really at the same time. Dramatic speculation, the lyrics are pretty cryptic. In fact, Jeff himself has called the song very cryptic. I guess it's a love song if you take it at that, but I think it might be about diarrhea. Anyway. It was a huge hit. The song reached number 4 in the UK, and it was a top 10 around the world. I mean, after years of trying to crack the charts, ELO had finally done it in spades. All right, so for the B-side for this record, got to go with Telephone Line. Jeff Lynne wrote this one after calling his American girlfriend and getting no reply, making the narrator's despair completely genuine. Lynne himself called it the saddest of them all among all of his songs. If you'd pick up that telephone. As Jeff would say, the track captures the helplessness of being on the lonely end of the receiver, with the chorus's keyline describing the narrator's state in the nether region between hope and despair as the phone rings endlessly. And the famous telephone ringing at the song's opening, that sound that we all know? Get this. Since the band was having greater success in America than in the UK, Jeff consciously decided to use an American ringtone, which is distinct from the British one. It was an intentional choice to favor US audiences. Now, to get the sound of the band, recording in Munich, Germany, called a number in America, likely the Jet Records office in California, where they knew nobody would answer. They recorded the sound of the phone ringing by putting a microphone near the receiver, but then Jeff Lynne later revealed that they studied the sound and recreated the tone exactly on a Moog synthesizer. Released on May 6, 1977, Telephone Line reached number 7 in the US, becoming ELO's biggest selling single, spending an astonishing 23 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100. They had definitely conquered America. So following a New World Records' phenomenal success, United Artists, the label, asked Jeff Lynne to make a double live album like Frampton Comes Alive, because, it was selling like hotcakes there. Jeff Lynne hated live albums, and he said, I wish you'd said studio album. I'd have done that, but I don't want to do a live album. So the label came back and said, okay, you're on. Double studio album. But once again, time was really tight. ELO was touring until early April 1977, and studio time was booked for May 22nd. That gave Jeff Lynne just over a month to write enough material for a double album. So he rented a chalet in the Swiss mountains near Lake Geneva, and he got to work. But nothing would come. Some sources say he faced multiple days of writer's block. Some say it was almost a month. But instead of writing, Jeff Lynne spent his time at a local pub, just trying to drink away his blues. Not exactly the breakthrough he was looking for. According to Jeff Lynne, he was thinking, bloody hell, maybe I can't come up with anything here. Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. Coming in at number 3, it's our A-side track, Mr. Blue Sky. You had to hide away for so long. So after days and days of overcast weather and deep writer's block filled in with anxiety and despair, the sun suddenly came out. The clouds were clear and Jeff could see the Alps under a bright blue sky. It was incredible to see. That immediate powerful moment broke the floodgates wide open. He wrote Mr. Blue Sky right after that. Just like that. And then 13 more songs came just like that. Jeff Lynne once said about Mr. Blue Sky, it captured all what ELO, my vision of ELO, was all about. Everything is exactly what I imagined ELO to be. And he's exactly right. If you had to define ELO by one song, it's got to be Mr. Blue Sky. It's the ultimate ELO track. Song is absolutely jam-packed with everything that makes ELO brilliant. It's so dense with ideas that it even has to get a guitar solo out of the way in the first 90 seconds. From there, it's 5 minutes of pure genius, pure joy. The backing vocals, the sliding cellos, the perfectly placed sound effects. Now, the song was about a make-believe superhero. It was actually inspired by a silly TV show that Jeff Lynne loved as a child, Sparky's Magic Piano.
Sparky was a little boy just about your age, maybe a little older by now.
It was recorded with percussion played on a fire extinguisher and was so powerful and singable, later astronauts would use it as an alarm in space. I mean, the way Bev Bevan hits the cymbals in just the right places, and the magnificence of each of its three endings, it's just unbelievable. But above everything, the song's enthusiasm, that's what shines through. The melody rises incrementally with each verse, constantly pushing upwards, hitting a zenith with Mr. Blue, You Did It Right, which is one of the most uplifting moments in pop music history for my money. Amazingly, Mr. Blue Sky, it only reached number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100. I mean, what the hell? Don't even get me started on that one. But jump ahead to 2018, and scientists actually declared it the happiest song in the world. And honestly, you can hear why. I mean, no matter how many times you've listened to it, it's still 5 minutes of pure sonic joy. It's just a revelation. Honestly, Mr. Blue Sky is the reason we listen to music, the reason that music uplifts us. It's just pure magic. Now, turning things over to the B-side, I'm going to go Turn to Stone. This one contains one of the most celebrated examples of what Lynne called whizzits. There are moments where he'd slip something unexpected, just to give your mind a little something extra to chew on. Now, in this case, there's this fast tongue twister section where the song stops dead, leaving only the vocals. They're slightly phased and punctuated with exploding drums, courtesy of Bev Bevan. It's a signature feature of the arrangement, and fans love singing it at full speed. Now, lyrically, Turn to Stone introduces the main emotional theme of the entire album. I turned to stone. When you were gone, I turned to stone.
When you were gone, I turned to stone.
This immediately establishes the cyclical story about the breakdown, recovery, and subsequent loss of love that provides the emotional core for the rest of the album. Chosen as the album's lead single in the UK, Turn to Stone was released on October 14, 1977, and it peaked at number 18 in a 12-week chart run. Here in the US, it climbed even higher, reaching number 13. So our fourth album on the countdown is ELO's seventh overall, Discovery. This is arguably ELO's most accessible album, a straight-up celebration of pop music in its simplest, purest form. Since he started making music, all Jeff Lynne ever wanted to do was write great pop songs, like the Beatles, his heroes. But when he became ELO's leader, the band concept dictated the music, and ultimately he found himself creatively inhibited by the touring lineup. He was making records he thought he should have been making instead of trusting his own instincts. To paraphrase his own words, it was all rather pretentious. Discovery? It's the first ELO album unencumbered by the constraints of that original formula. It's lighter and it's leaner. 1979 was a perfect storm. Long-term fans and new followers from Out of the Blue's global success all came together as one. And Discovery was massive. Top 5 and double platinum here in the US, and straight to number 1 in the UK with instant platinum status. So our next Evolution pick at number 2, of course I gotta go with Don't Bring Me Down. This was written, recorded, and mixed in a single day. Yeah, just one day. Genius. Jeff Lynne realized he didn't have a loud one for the album, so he just got to work. The result is essentially, it's really a Jeff Lynne solo recording. It's built with engineer Mac around 2 bars of a drum track that was slowed down and looped. Said Jeff about it, they wound around a mic stand and my old pencil. Just incredible ingenuity. Don't Bring Me Down is notable for not including strings, though. Instead, it's powered by a bulldozing drum sound that only Jeff Lynne's wizardry could achieve. Muscular guitars, multiple grand pianos, and a sing-along chorus that combines rock and disco into a hybrid that just leaps out of the speakers and drags you straight onto the dance floor. This is such a great song. In a 2019 interview with SiriusXM, Jeff Lynne reflected on the recording process. He said, I put them, the drums, through a load of compressors, making them big and ugly. I think I put 6 pianos on. I've learned a lot more since then. It's no different to having one piano, really, because they're all perfectly in tune. And then I started putting guitars on it. Started to get really big, and I thought of these very silly words. One of those silly words, of course, gruce. Don't bring me down, Gruce. As Jeff would say in an interview, when I was singing it, there was a gap in the vocal, so I just shouted out gruce. I just threw out a word. It was a word that came to my head. The engineer said later that it meant greetings in German, which I thought was lovely, and I decided to leave it in. Of course, fans immediately heard something else. They thought Jeff was shouting Bruce. Some even believed it was a salute to Bruce Springsteen. Others thought it was just a random guy's name. Now, engineer Reinhold Mack later offered a third explanation. He claimed that Lynne was singing Bruce as a joke ahead of a planned Australian tour, referring to how many Australian guys that are called Bruce. The joke, of course, stuck, leading to a decades-long lyrical mystery that fans still debate today. The song ends with a 2-second effect that's actually a recording of a slowed-down studio fire door closing. Classic Jeff Lynne experimentation. Don't Bring Me Down was released as the follow-up to A Shine a Little Love in the US, and the single peaked at number 4 in the US and number 3 in the UK and number 1 in Canada, making it ELO's most successful single in terms of charts placing. And you know, the misheard lyric Bruce instead of gruce, actually, Jeff Lynne sings that when he's in Australia and other places. I love that. Sings the wrong lyric to his own song. So my B-side here is Last Train to London. It isn't just a catchy track. It's a dramatic, accurate depiction of ELO's demanding schedule during their relentless pursuit of fame. The song's central image, constantly riding that last train to London, comes from the band's early years. Jeff Lynne described it as being about their frequent commute between their hometown of Birmingham and the recording studio in London. And then the line, I really want tonight to last forever, I really want to be with you, that transforms that mundane late-night travel into a metaphor for fleeting romantic connection. But the underlying emotion is rooted in the exhausting reality of their professional life. This song captures the bittersweet contrast of ELO's rise. That's why I love this song. They were a massive international success, but the constant travel meant sacrificing a stable personal life for the sake of the music, which a lot of people do. That last train ride was the boundary between those two worlds. Coupled with confusion, Last Train to London was the album's final single, peaked at number 8 on the UK charts, but here in the US, it missed the top 40. Well, actually, it went to number 39, so it was right there. You don't know what you're saying. All right, so by 1980, Jeff Lynne had been approached multiple times to provide music for films. But these offers were always refused due to ELO's hectic touring and recording schedule. However, Jeff Lynne's decision not to tour in support of Discovery in 1979, that coincided with a proposal from a producer named Joel Silver to work on Xanadu. The film was about a Greek muse played by Olivia Newton-John, who comes to Earth to help a young man open a roller disco. What could possibly go wrong, right? Plenty, as it turned out in the movie. Xanadu was a box office disaster, though.
Romantic musical fantasy in years. Xanadu.
I mean, this movie bombed so hard. It was such a bomb that it inspired the creation of the Golden Raspberry Awards for the worst films of the year. Now, Jeff Lynne later admitted that he's never seen the thing, saying, I don't suppose anybody else has either. However, he was drawn to the project because he really wanted to work with Olivia Newton-John. Who wouldn't?
Open your eyes and hear the magic. Xanadu.
Despite the film's spectacular failure, though, the ELO featured soundtrack was a massive commercial hit. The album was divided into an Olivia Newton-John side with a purple label and an ELO side with a blue label. I love that record. But this pivot towards simplified disco pop unsettled much of ELO's fan base. But the most dramatic consequences of the endeavor was Jeff Lynne, sidelining the band's core string section in favor of that more synthesized sound, signaling a shift away from ELO's classical heart. All right, so my final Evolution pick here is All Over the World as my A-side. All Over the World is a sensational piece of pop history, born from a desperate Hollywood contract and achieving hit status despite the complete failure of the Xanadu project. But what makes this song even better is the self-deprecating joke that Jeff Lynne slipped into the lyrics. The song's core concept is a global tour of famous cities. The high-energy chorus, it's a roll call of major international hubs. London, Paris, Rome, Rio de Janeiro, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and New York City. The list creates this image of, a glamorous, globe-trotting rock band. Monte Carlo, LA, all the big names are in there. But then right at the end of that global list, Jeff drops in Shard End. Shard End? What? Shard End is a mundane housing estate in Birmingham, England, where Lynne was born and he spent his childhood. It's completely out of place alongside these world mega cities, but that's the joke. That would be like me saying Blackfoot, Idaho, you know? Jeff Lynne later confirmed as saying, the lyrics are just nice names to sing. You know, Paris, Rio, and Amsterdam, and then finished the list with Chardin. It's funny because it's just a little housing estate. I like silly stuff occasionally. Released as a single on July 26, 1980, All Over the World hit the charts on August 2nd, reaching number 11 in the UK and climbed to number 13 in the USA. It's also one of a handful of ELO songs that have really grown in stature and recognition over the years. It's happy, it's optimistic, and very commercial. It's been featured in movies beyond Xanadu, used in flash mobs, and was selected as the perfect opening song for ELO's Hyde Park comeback concert in 2014. In 2022, Jeff Lynne personally listed All Over the World as one of his 9 favorite ELO songs, citing his penchant for composing numbers with a throwback jukebox flavor. He aimed to capture the feeling of excitement spreading everywhere. Well, mission accomplished for sure. All Over the World does exactly that. It's infectious. It's uplifting. It just makes you feel like $100, $1 million, really. So for my B-side, I'm going to go with the title track, Xanadu. The recording of the Xanadu soundtrack marked a serious shift in ELO's personnel, as Jeff Lynne drastically simplified and synthesized the band structure around the album's release. But before all that drama unfolded, ELO handed lead vocal duties over to Olivia Newton-John for the title track. Xanadu, that was recorded at Musicland in Munich with Olivia Newton-John joining the band for 2 days to add her vocals. But you know what? Creating the track took a long time, much longer than expected, as Bev Bevan explained in '97. He said it was a really difficult song to record because Jeff had sent the demo to the studio in Hollywood, and they'd actually shot the dance sequence to the demo. So when we came to record it for real, we had to keep in time with the demo. It was a bit of a nightmare to actually record the thing. What should have taken a couple of hours took about 3 or 4 days. Now, released as a single in the UK on June 6, 1980, Xanadu hit number 1 on July 12, staying there for 2 weeks. Here in the US, the track reached number 8, making it Electric Light Orchestra's highest charting single of the entire 80s. Well, there you have it. That's our ELO evolution. So what are your memories of these songs? What would you choose for your 10 or your 5? Isn't ELO amazing? I've been wanting to do this for a long time. We have so many ELO fans. Have you ever seen them live? I actually had to choose between seeing Jeff Lynne and David Gilmour because they were on the same night last year in LA, and I chose Gilmour by just a pinch. So that was tough. But let's have a great discussion below celebrating Jeff Lynne. He's also the uber producer that saved so many great songs, Beatles, Roy Orbison, and so on. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.